What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and it's Top 10 Thursday. Over the course of the last couple weeks, I've been going console by console and trying to count down the games that I think are the absolute worst for each device. I've already done the Nintendo Switch and the PlayStation 4, which means it's now time to finish things off with the Xbox One. I love my Xbox. I have literally hundreds of games for it that are also freaking exciting and fun, but not everything for this machine is really that great. Some stuff is absolute garbage, and today we're going to be highlighting those. These are my picks of the top 10 games I've played on Xbox One that I ended up hating. Number 10. Homefront: The Revolution. It seems like some of the very best shooters that come out each year are oftentimes the ones that are the most based in reality, giving us a semblance of this actually having meaning and mattering and trying to basically paint the picture that someday these events might take place. In Homefront, it attempts to do that in a way by showing us an alternate history where Korea invades America, and that seems great, but man do they screw it up. This game blows. The controls are bad. The level design is so clunky you constantly get lost, and the acting is so bad it just freaking blows my mind. Don't buy this game even for $1. Number 9. Past Cure. By far, one of the very hardest genres to develop for is survival horror, because you want to make a game that is simultaneously really fun and absolutely frightening. And that's why I think a big key to that is being able to make something that gets you invested in the world, so you want to save it. And it's in this way that I think that Past Cure is a complete dumpster fire. It randomly throws enemies at you, the plot makes no sense, you have psychic powers that don't really connect to anything else. It is a bad game down to its very core, and I feel like nothing is ever going to be able to cure that. Number 8. TMNT Mutants in Manhattan. Video games have a very special place in a lot of people's hearts because of the multiplayer aspect of them. Being able to go on digital journeys with your friends, become a hero, become a villain, become yourself maybe. And that's why I have such a very unique love when it comes to anything that has co-op in it. But this game, it manages to completely screw that up. Mutants in Manhattan is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that really gets nothing right. It is so bare bones. The combat is repetitive, the bosses are too easy, and really there's no point in even playing it multiplayer, even though that was apparently such a big part of the marketing. They acted like this would be a great co-op game, and it blows. Number 7. Murdered Soul Suspect. A really cool setup can go a long way in making your game's story seem absolutely epic. Murdered Soul Suspect is based around the idea of this detective who's trying to track down a serial killer when, unfortunately, he randomly gets murdered. Instead of being able to go to the afterlife, though, and meet his long-lost lover, he is instead stuck on Earth. The only way he can get to heaven is to solve his own final case, his own crime, his own murder. That seems pretty cool, right? Except that it's not. This game never really bothers to get off the ground and give us some cool lore and plot and a reason to think that these characters are actually worth being thought of. That is by far the biggest problem with Soul Suspect, is that it never really bothers getting off the ground to make it where this plot gets you really pulled into it. You are just this big, lifeless blob floating along, trying to wait for the story to fall out of you like a giant ghost turd. Number 6. The Amazing Spider-Man 2. If you're somebody who just bought an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4 for the first time in the last 6 months, you may not know that back in the day, you could get Spider-Man games on every console, but this is one that you definitely want to avoid. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 was obviously based on the movie, but it had some giant problems with it. The most essential one being the fact that it was just so difficult to enjoy. You couldn't just be Spider-Man and swing around having fun because there was a stupid morality system where if you didn't constantly just stop and save every random person on the street, the police would try and hunt you down and even put giant laser nets up in the sky. How do you screw up web slinging when you are playing as the web slinger? Oh my gosh! Number 5. Soda Drinker Pro. Yep, this is a real game, and I'm really going to have to talk about it. I can't believe my life has come to this, but here we are. I legitimately hate this game because it's one of those joke projects that it seems like it's purposely bad, but even still, I can't get over the concept of it. You basically have one button, which is press A to drink soda, but then there is a hidden game inside this, which is sort of like a randomization of different concepts. Sometimes you're an amoeba, or a duck that's jumping over stuff, or a platformer, but all of it is still just based around tapping A to do everything. This isn't a game. It is a concept. The fact that they are charging real money for this is so annoying. Think of how many great indie games out there that deserve the spotlight, and instead, there are people who are going to accidentally buy the prank game Soda Piss Drinker Pro. Number 4. Fallout 76. There are certain emotions that can just instantly ruin your entire day. Disappointment, heartbreak, having emotional turmoil over some really bad loss in your life. And somehow I managed to feel all of those simultaneously when it came to Fallout 76. I don't consider myself the most hardcore Fallout fan in the universe, but still I enjoy the franchise. Each of them manages to be really riveting and have great little side quests. And every single piece of that is missing from the heart and soul of Fallout 76. This is an always online game that is multiplayer only. There is not a single person in this entire universe who is not another player, which means that if you want to have that real genuine connection to a cool piece of plot, it's probably going to be with your buddy whose name is Smokes Pot for Life instead of a real NPC. I don't know, it's just something that doesn't work. It was an experiment, I give them credit for trying it, but it's time to give up. Number 3. The Crew 2. Deep down, in a part of my soul that I never really talk about, I am secretly in love with racing games. There's something so soothing about just trying to do that perfect lap and upgrading my car, getting the pieces of a vehicle that'll make me the absolute most hardcore dude on the track. And that's part of the reason that I initially wanted to buy and review this game originally. I mean, The Crew 2 seemed like it was going to be a huge step in a different direction. You can actually instantly switch from a car to a boat to a plane, literally at the snap of a finger. So I thought that that could be awesome, right? Except that it's not. Every single one of these events is basically just a boring time trial, where you're trying to be the fastest around the track, but without anybody to really compete against. This game is so boring, and it gets that way in a matter of minutes. How do you make a game that has dirt bikes and off-road vehicles and so many things that would be so great to jump in the driver's seat of, and then make it a boring palette of unenjoyable times? I hate The Crew 2 because it had unlimited potential. Why didn't you make this the open world racing game that fans truly deserve? Number 2. Evolve. This is the one game on the list that I honestly don't believe is pure trash. It actually plays pretty decent. My problem is that the company that developed it was so greedy they ended up breaking the toy they had created. You see, this game is based around the concept of being hunters or the hunted. There's a giant monster out in the jungle and everybody needs to try and track it down before it reaches max power and kills everybody in a giant epic boss fight. That seems cool, right? It's so straightforward. The issue arises when it comes to how they monetized it. The game itself cost $60 at launch, and there were an additional couple $100 of microtransactions on top of that. Extra skins, new unlockable classes, even the ability to buy new monsters, which completely would change the meta. I cannot believe how badly they drove this game into the ground, utterly destroying the community before it had a chance to even be established. Number 1. Ghostbusters. All the way back in 2016, we randomly saw Hollywood decide to do a total remake of Ghostbusters, rebooting the entire style of... All the way back in 2016, Hollywood decided to randomly do a total reboot of the Ghostbusters franchise, starting it over. And personally, I didn't bother seeing it, simply because the trailers kinda looked like trash. But when they came out with a new Ghostbusters game, I had to pick it up, because that is something that I could definitely get on board with. However, this game is probably even worse than the movie was. It is a twin-stick shooter that is so repetitive and so freaking trash. Every facet of it. This is something where you're supposed to be going out and trying to track down different ghosts and use your equipment to basically see their ghostly trails. But it just is obviously a crappy cell phone game that at the last minute they decided to shove onto the Xbox. And for these reasons, I'm awarded this my pick as the number 1 most hated Xbox One game. Did your most hated Xbox One game not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Oh man, I really love having the white Xbox. I just think it looks so freaking cool and so slick. Although if I ever stereotypically get Cheeto dust on this thing, it's really going to stand out. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.